Well, hello everyone. I am happy to be in here doing a live stream. If you don't know me or you're just joining our group, my name is Brianna McWilliam and I am an author, educator, Reiki practitioner, and creative arts therapist. And I've been in the field for about 13 years. And I am ecstatic about attachment issues and love and relationships and talking about how these things actually apply to us in adult relationships specifically. So today, for today's video, I really wanted to address a question that popped up. I actually think it was under on my YouTube channel, and that is it possible that some people are just incapable of being happy? And I think that this was in response to a personal video I posted earlier this week about sometimes when things are going really well for us, sometimes it's kind of like the deep recesses of our mind, what we might refer to as our shadow self, says, hey, wow, you're doing really well. So that must mean that you're ready and capable to process some things that you might have buried or that maybe haven't been in your awareness for a long time. But now there's a way to kind of shed that. And so it could be interpreted that someone is just incapable of being happy, but I don't think that that's the case, because it really depends on your definition of happiness, right? Because if in this case you're defining happiness as a static state of being and contentment, then in my opinion, I would have to say, yes, that is impossible for anyone, regardless of whether you have an insecure attachment style or not. Because our desire for things is ever expanding, and you'll only ever remain content with things so long before that contentment expands into a desire for something different, bigger, or somehow qualitatively unique, right? And I think that's actually kind of a wonderful thing. That's really what this wild ride that we call life is all about, right? Now, if I say, oh, I want, that our desire is always expanding into the next bigger thing, it doesn't necessarily mean, at least in the context of relationships, that you're always seeking a new romantic partner or infidelity is some fact of life. But it does mean that you have to have enough of an underlying understanding and complementary agreement within the relationship that allows for the expansion and the growth of each individual separately and the relationship as its own kind of third entity. So your relationship will change. It will change. Even when you find the one, your soul partner, whatever you want to call it, it will change. It's not going to remain the same as it is in that moment, and neither will you, nor will your partner. And why on earth would you want it to, right? As happy as you may be in any euphoric state, that happiness leads to a desire for deepening intimacy, doesn't it? And so deepening intimacy leads to a desire for growing in other ways as a couple. Could be children, a home, building a business together, traveling together, so on and so forth. So your relationship cannot stay the same. And you really wouldn't want it to, right? But if we are to think of happiness, okay, as a fluid state of being, meaning a growing and functional awareness of all the parts of you that bubble to the surface based on new experiences and contexts in which you might find yourself, then I believe that happiness is possible and you're encountering it all of the time, okay? Or at least opportunities to utilize it, not as a static state of being, but a flexible kind of psychic structure that's always choosing the path of expansion. Okay. And this is not, I would add to that, independent of any kind of conflict or contrast that you might experience in your life, because that's an aspect of happiness, right? Now, sometimes it might look like unearthing old things that are ready to be processed now, so you can reach a new level of spiritual ascension. So in my personal story, I shared that I was doing a lot of wounded inner child work, and I ended up kind of like holding myself and crying on the floor. Now, you might say, oh, well, that person's just not capable of being happy. But actually, that is me expressing happiness, because now I'm in a place where I can allow myself to do that. I have the flexibility to allow for the full range of my emotions, right? The dynamism of that experience. And to know that as I'm in the midst of feeling so awful, I know that that's not going to last forever. I know that that's not the core and essence of my being. I know that that is not a determinant of the overall quality of my life and the trajectory of my life. So in that moment, if I can allow myself that awfulness without fear that I'm going to get stuck there, then I'm actually practicing a form of happiness. You might call it resiliency. You might call it security. Okay. Now, sometimes the conflict that comes in is a relationship, right? It's a kind of relationship that feels unhealthy, or it's a certain kind of partner that's always mirroring back to you parts of yourself that you're struggling with seeing and accepting in yourself, and it just happens over and over and over again. Or it might be a moment in which you discover that you have new desires, wants, and capacities, and that allows you to reinvent yourself over and over again. Okay? So I guess part of it is a way of defining happiness is not a static state of being, but rather a flexible way of responding to and integrating your experiences. Okay. Now, I've also been asked in my own personal experience, how have I found ways to experience that kind of flexible structure, which I am calling and defining happiness? Well, in a nutshell, my ability to access my inner being and intuition. Some people might refer to that as your inner child, right? So there's a couple of different ways that I do that. And that is I establish a community of friends and therapeutic support, right? Realizing that I'm not alone and that the love of a romantic partner is just only one kind of very specific type of love that's out there. And it's not the only source, okay? Building my own business and facing my financial fears head on has been instrumental. I think there was a question on our feed here about the connection between scarcity attitudes around money and insecurity in relationships. They are so married to each other. And for those of you that don't know, in addition to doing love and relationship coaching in my business, I'm actually also a business coach. And they're so tied together, I can't even tell you. Also for me, being a mother and feeling motivated to really accept myself and have access to all the parts of myself so that intergenerational patterns of relating don't get passed on. Reconnecting with my own spirit and really delving into my creative process as a way to communicate with my own inner self, inner child, higher knowing, whatever you want to call it, has been really instrumental. Okay, surrendering to the fact that things are working out for me, even if I can't see the whole picture in the moment, but just adopting the belief that whatever is happening is for my greatest good. And my higher self, my soul, the essence of my being has a moon's eye view of my life. And I can only really experience my life in my ego mind, in my conscious waking self, moment to moment, right? So understanding and trying to use things like meditation and whatnot to connect with that moon's eye view and to be at peace with the contrast I might be experiencing in any given moment, and knowing that nothing is permanent, including those negative states, right? Also, choosing on a daily basis to write more positive narratives for myself, reframing my thoughts, because in the end, the only person who controls that narrative is you. And then connecting in with my body and caring for it as if I were a child. And to my mind, that connects with creativity, connects with the things I put in my mouth, connects with how I exercise my body. I also do things like dance and authentic movement because those help me connect with my inner child and feel playful. And so these are ways in which we might practice happiness, or at least I do. And I do that on a daily basis because it helps me to remember that happiness is not a static state of being, and I wouldn't want it to be. That I'm here to explore and ride the wave of my expanding desire, and that's really what I want in my life. Right? And I don't want to have my life be dictated and my narrative to be written by the conditions of others or even of my circumstances, right? So if any of this resonates with you and you're interested in learning more about how I've shared these practices in my clinical work, as well as with, at this point, hundreds of other individuals that are interested in soul-shaking romantic partnerships, then I invite you to check out my online course, Healing Attachment Wounds with Mindfulness and Creative Arts Therapies. And for those of you that don't know, this course offers 7 fun, easy lessons over the course of 7 weeks. And it combines neuroscience, attachment theory, mindfulness-based practices, and creative arts therapies interventions to help illuminate some of the struggles that you may be going through without having to talk in circles around your feelings for hours or even years on end with no tangible result. Okay, so more specifically, this course explores the intersections with attachment, complicated grief and addiction, anxious feelings, and how to use guided visualizations to navigate those. 6 signs of the anxious avoidant trap, as well as the role of fantasy in these push-pull relationships that we fall into. 4 parenting styles that can have an impact on our attachment style. The impact of 5 core brain systems and attention deficit and how that impacts our relationships. How to identify and shed 2 types of limiting beliefs, right? And then how to get yourself out of that cycle of self-sabotage that we often find ourselves in relationships. Now, in addition to that, I am offering a special bonus course if you purchase this month. It's called 5 Days to Ignite Your Love Light. And so in this bonus course, I'm offering 60% off if you purchase it with Healing Attachment Wounds. And this includes how to take the fear out of your desire and get your romantic needs met. How to identify, again, limiting beliefs and clear them out and switch them around into positive beliefs that you can feel are really true and resonate with you. And then how to use mindfulness and creativity to practice being in a loving vibration. And this is to activate the law of attraction. And then how to show up for an ascended love partner, not a soulmate or a twin flame, but a true ascended love partner. And then lastly, you're going to be taken on a guided shamanic journey with the lovely Kristen Boyer, who is a shaman and health coach, to go on a soul journey to recover any parts that we may have disconnected from energetically. So, you know, transformation, it is rarely linear, and sometimes trust is a verb. Okay, so wherever you may be in your romantic journey, I would invite you to let these courses and the richness of this content really be your first step in stepping into consciously creating the life that you want, the love life that you want, to stop being a survivor of your life and step into being a creator of it instead. So if any of this has resonated with you or you have more questions, I invite you to put them in the comments below this video, because that is what helps me create more content like this. Thank you so much for watching.